Hello and welcome to the channel. So before we even get into this, we're going to be saying Garth Richardson, Rick Rubin, Phil Spector, I think it's Brian Eno or Ano, and there's a host of other names. But those are all producers. If you don't know, those are producers. If you do know, well, guess what? They're still producers. So this is the topic of the video. This is a How I Met video, but it goes a bit deeper than that into the importance of kind of building relationships with these sorts of people, the producers field. But before we get into it, as we're on the topic of producers, let me know what your favorite kind of sounding album is in terms of how it was sonically mixed and mastered. So we're talking, if you were to, if you've ever thought, I'd love to make an album that could sound like this because it's got a great punchy bass drum, the bass guitar is really nice and fat and warm, the guitar is nice and chunky, the snare is cracking, and the cymbals are bright, or whatever it might be. Throw it down below what your kind of sonic album fingerprint that you'd want for your own material to be. So send that down in the comments below, and again, if you're enjoying any of this stuff, do subscribe, please. It would really help. So, how I met Graham and who Graham is. Who is Graham Dominy? Take that name, pause the video now, go and Google him. He is an incredibly humbled man, so he will not be saying any of these things. I am here to trumpet his greatness, really, because that's what it is. But also to let the world, let who's watching this know how important people like Graham are, and how important it is then to become friends with them. It's important, one thing, to have a working relationship with these people, but if you can develop a really strong bond and a friendship, that means a lot more than you could even imagine. That goes way past, that would be, if you've got that, then you're kind of doing something right. So Graham has worked as an engineer, as a producer, in loads of studios in London. It's not there anymore, but it was the Church. He was in, he's in Embassy Studios now. I don't know all the places he's been, because he's been all over the place. But he's worked with people like Biffy Clyro, to my knowledge, Jeff Beck, Robert Plant, what's the guy on the keys? Jules Holland, Imelda May, all of these people. He's just a beast. He's covered so much ground, and he's been working since the 90s, to my knowledge, and so just an absolute monster of a producer and an engineer. He's incredible at everything he does. And so don't take my word for it, though. Go and check out his discography and his little bit of a musical resume there. But yes, so how did I meet him? I joined a band years and years ago, and they had just finished an album, and so they were in the final mix. I think they'd mixed it. This was more, they were doing some final mixes before it was going to be mastered, and there is a difference there, and Graham can absolutely tell you exactly what it is. My layman's terms is basically mixing, and then you master it, and it makes it a little bit louder, and it gives a nice little ceiling and sheen over it. But he knows every bit into it. So we turn up, and my first impression, honestly, I kept it to myself, but the first impression of who this man was, why is this man dressed like a youth? Why is he wearing clothes that I wore 15 years ago? I'm talking like a giant red shirt with a giant Chewbacca on it. And other kind of, and then I've since seen other Star Wars shirts and stuff, but it was incredible, because he's a huge Star Wars fan, and he's a regular, proper, decent kind of guy. So that's what's really great about all this. But yeah, I was kind of taken back, and I thought, what's going on here, because you have this illusion of what the music industry is, where everybody's like suits in a glass office on the 15th floor, and it's like this giant physically gated community. It's very much gated in the sense of who you know, but it totally shattered all my preconceived notions about what actually is the industry. And so I wasn't sure what to take from it. And then I looked over onto this other wall because we were in his home studio, and I looked over at this wall, and there's a platinum record there. And that then put the fear of God in me, because then I thought, right, I did think that this was some kind of random, I don't know, some guy with no fashion, this man with no fashion sense, not to say that I have any, but it was a totally unassuming experience. But to see that platinum record, you only get a platinum record when you're involved with those heavy hitters. If you're a heavy hitter, you've got all those bands that have platinum records, you could name them all. And it's not about the platinum record, that's not the point, but it's just to express that you don't get that if you're not of the same level of ability, and there's got to be a level of respect that comes along with that to put that man on that certain project. And so that then instantly took me back, and I thought, this is an absolutely vitally important person to become friends with or network with. I didn't think that he would ever want to be my friend, and that's not to say like anything other than the fact of, it's just like you would just kind of assume that this guy is mixing in very different circles. And I was at school at the time for my drum degree, and so they're saying like, oh, network is number one, network is key, network's important, become friends and not so much become friends, but make contacts with all these different people that you can, because this is what's going to help you in the future, and these are going to be your peers are going to be your employers or employees. And so do your best to network. And I thought, right, I'm going to put that to the test now. And I wasn't gonna, I don't know if he knows this, and if you're watching it now, Graham, sorry to break the bubble there, but I just thought there's got to be a way that I can somehow engage enough with this person that I've literally just met. I have no idea who they are, and they don't know who I am, but there's got to be a way that I can manage this so that we can become colleagues in a sense. I was thinking outside of even the band, because bands, like relationships, come and go just like seasons, and I didn't think that this was going to stop. I didn't think this band was going to end necessarily, but it was, I need to make sure that I'm not associated with this man just because of the band. I want to forge my own connection with this person. But he just became this permanent figure almost in my life. And even today, I was talking to him just a few minutes ago, he's become one of my best friends. He, again, whether it's going to go both ways, I don't know, because I just wear him down, in the sense of like just never taking no for an answer, and always trying to move forward in a sense. But that's not what our friendship has become, really. It's become a completely separate entity. So there is a professional aspect of our relationship, and there is a very much personal relationship now. As I say, he has become one of my best friends. Just wonderful person. I never thought that in that moment I would then be having dinner at his family home, and that I'd be hanging out with his kids and helping them, and it superseded all of my expectations. So in that sense, it was a great experience, really. But the importance of having a connection with somebody of that level, or at least of that profession, i.e. an engineer or a producer, I would never, he would send it to me, really. And as we became more comfortable with each other, it was more of like, is there any work going? I wouldn't just try and make him give and give and give, because it's not about giving or not giving. It's not just about taking. You don't just take from these people like a leech, because nobody likes a leech. What happens if you get a leech on you if you're in the water or the mud? You light it up, fire with a lighter, or you cut it off with a knife. You get the thing off you and you get away from it as quickly as you can, because you don't want it. Nobody wants it. So it wasn't about being a leech to this man. It was about seeing what I could give back as well, and being humbled that anything would be offered. And he did really help me cut my teeth in the sense that some of these things are true. When people say like, you gotta be ready to take that phone call because you never know what's gonna happen, you just gotta be ready to go and do it. absolutely happened. I was at the gym once, and I got a phone call, and this is about 5:30 in the afternoon. Halfway through my workout, I noticed it was him, so again, another thing, I never ignored a call that he made. As best I could ignore a lot of people, but if I saw him phoning me, that phone got answered straight away. And if I missed it for any reason, I phoned him back until I got through to him, and that might have been 5 times, 10 times. It didn't matter. And so I took the call, and he said, "You got to be ready tomorrow at 9 o'clock. You got to come in. There's a session. I might be able to send you the files, but I don't know yet. I'm backed up with all this other stuff." And so it was literally, I had to go in. I said, "Yeah, I'll do it." You go in, and you're looking at having to lay down 5 tracks that you don't know anything about. You've got no concept of what they sound like. The only thing I think he gave me was a little bit later that night. He said, "Yeah, it's kind of a blues style session." So that kind of puts you in a frame of a camp of what you're going to be roughly doing, so you can kind of not have to worry about, are you going to have to use, I don't know, double pedal? Are you going to have to be doing odd time signatures and all that kind of stuff? You have a rough idea of what fills you're going to use and how you're going to groove that, but you don't know any of the songs, you don't know the tempos or any of it. So he really threw me in the deep end a few times, actually, and I am eternally grateful for that, because it really helps you develop as a person and as a player. And so being friends, if you can't be friends with the person, be as friendly and be as we're colleagues sort of thing as you can, but seek these people out, find them, see who they are, and try and forge these relationships, because it's people like Graham that are going to help give you those opportunities. He gave me one, and I'm not going to speak about it because it didn't happen in the end, because of the other drummer didn't want to lose it. But again, if you're watching this, Graham, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it came really close to having what would have been one of the most incredible sessions. I think it would have been the most incredible session I could have ever had, even if I had 100 other fantastic ones down the road. That would have been the one to have, in my opinion. So find out who these people are and become friends with them. Be genuinely interested in their lives. If, again, you can't always forge these certain relationships, but producers are incredibly important to people that are trying to become a session musician, or if they're just trying to be an artist, because they are the people that are in the front lines of the studios. They're the people that deal with other management. They're the people that are recording all these other people. So if a producer knows who you are, and they're working, let's say, again, hypothetical, but let's say this producer is working with Katy Perry, and you've developed a really good relationship with this producer, and he knows you for exactly what you are as a musician, whether that be a drummer or a guitarist, and then let's say you're a guitarist, and Katy Perry's guitarist don't turn up, or he's had food poisoning. Who knows? But that person is now absent. This producer can go, wait a second, I know a guy or girl that would be perfect for this. And they have those people. Fair amount of times, the artist of that level would probably have a whole collection of people that they could go to. But the point is, in that moment that producer sees an in where they can say, well, I know a guy, I know the perfect guy or girl that can fill this spot and save this session, you're getting that phone call, and you've just had a huge moment in your career. So having those people, those producer friends and colleagues are vastly, vastly important. But the point is, I met this guy. His name is Graham. He is a beautiful human. He's a wonderful producer. Check him out. He is a monster when it comes to all things sound engineer and producing and just, honestly, the guy knows things that, obviously I don't know a lot, so I can't say that it's, obviously it's baffling and incredible to me, but I've waffled way too long about Graham now. So, but yeah, find a person similar, find a producer and really get yourself in there. Honestly, it's a hugely helpful thing to do to push yourself forward. So, thanks very much. Stay safe.